The UN Human Rights Chief has urged the Ethiopian government to let monitors into Tigray to investigate reports of abuses that could amount to war crimes. Michelle Bachelet says killings and sexual violence are reported to be ongoing in the region. Ethiopia declared victory after launching an offensive against the Tigray People's Liberations Front in November. Well, let's cross to Malcolm Webb, who's in Nairobi for us. It's a bit hard to get any information about that region. Do we know what's happening on the ground, Malcolm?
Well, since the government officially declared its military action over in early December, there's been a sort of steady trickle of information coming out of there and a growing number of allegations of atrocities against all of the sides, all of the different forces involved. Just last week, rights group Amnesty International published a report on which it said, according to dozens of testimonies, it said that the Eritrean and Ethiopian military were responsible for an indiscriminate shelling in the town of Aksum, and it said that Eritrean troops were subsequently responsible for a massacre of civilians there that took place in late November. Also in the town of Maikadra, we heard initially reports of militia aligned with the TPLF massacring civilians, and then later reports of counter-massacres on the part of militia aligned with the government side, and also growing reports of systematic and widespread sexual violence, particularly against women and girls. But as you've said, it's limited access for human rights researchers and for the press. Just in the last couple of weeks, the Ethiopian government did allow some access to some international media organisations, but following those assignments, many of the journalists connected with those organisations or their translators were rounded up by the military and detained. Most of them have now been released, but it still raises very serious questions about the restrictions of access to the press in the Tigray region.
Well, the level of violence that the region appears to have seen, and also I believe there are reports that people are getting close to starvation in certain areas for one reason and another. Maybe you could talk to us about that. Is there any sense that aid can get to these people to help them with the injuries that they've suffered and to give them food aid as well?
Well, there is some access to some humanitarian organisations. They are able to reach some of the people that they say they need to. But just a few days ago, the UN's Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said that that access is inadequate, that the humanitarian situation continues to deteriorate, that about 1 million people are in need of food assistance. And certainly the tune from has changed from the Ethiopian government, possibly since February, when the new US administration came to power, the Biden administration. It's certainly talked a lot more about opening up access to humanitarian organisations, but according to those humanitarian organisations, the access is still woefully inadequate.
Malcolm, thanks very much indeed. That's Malcolm Webb in Nairobi.